All right, welcome back. This is episode 11 of the Author Podcast. Brian Hartman, fiction author and ER doctor. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today. Going to hit AI art and literature, content creation. Going to talk about Tylenol and autism. Going to talk about some home improvement projects I did. And of course, we're going to run through all of the books that I've written. Let's go. So briefly from episode 10, we touched on THC and the ER complications I see. So since then, I saw 3 people in the ER purely for THC ingestion. All right, side effects, psychosis, vomiting, just me in 1 week, 3 patients. So take it for what you want, but there are legitimate downsides. All right, so AI, artificial intelligence. Like what? First of all, how do you define it? So, of course, you got to start with the dictionary definition. Oxford says the application of computer systems that are able to perform tasks or produce output normally requiring human intelligence, especially by applying machine learning techniques to large collections of data. So what does that even mean? We don't know. We say, oh, AI, it's a bot. This is a computer. Well, we've had that forever. I shouldn't say forever, but anti-lock brakes in your car. Is that AI? But beyond just the definition of what it is, why do we consider it bad? What is it about it? Is it a fear of the unknown? Is it a fear of some new cyber overlord? Is it because it's going to replace humans in the workplace? Detriment to society? Look at other tech advancements throughout the years. All right, how did humans used to get around? Obviously, we started by walking. Then we probably got some sort of, I don't want to call it a piggyback ride, but say you ride a pig, say you ride a horse, an ox, donkey, something. You start cruising around by something else doing the work for you. Maybe back in the day, you got carried around if you're a king, right? But then as that went on, we got into trains, we got into cars, we got into planes, there's bicycles in there. Each of those was an increase in technology that replaced a human activity. But what did it lead to? Massive increases in productivity. Open up new technology, new frontiers. Look at the steam shovel. One steam shovel replaced hundreds of manual laborers. So is this bad? I mean, maybe if you were a manual laborer, but guess what? Then there was a steam shovel operator. And he got paid a lot because he was worth a lot, because he could run a machine that did the equivalent work of a couple hundred guys. So looking back on it now, do you want to get rid of the steam shovel? The excavator? Do you want to go back to hand digging everything? Can our society handle that? No, of course not. So what other types of things? What about in medicine? What about an AI tool that they use for breast cancer detection? Do you want one radiologist staring at your mammogram? Or do you want software in the background that's analyzed 20 million mammograms and the outcome of the patient that had all of those to go back and look, hey, where was the cancer 5 years later? What did it look like 5 years before detection? And do you want that sitting over your radiologist's shoulder? I think everybody does, right? So AI in general is not bad. So what parts of it do we not want? I'm an ER doctor. Do you want me just sitting there trying to look at you and consider things that I know and that I'm able to recall at that time? Or would you prefer if I could integrate some sort of AI tool to look at everything you told me, all your symptoms, all your vitals, all your labs, your past medical history, and try to come up with a more robust thought pattern? Obviously, that is better. Now, what's interesting about that is a lot of patients already know what they want. They don't want my opinion. They don't want me to look at their symptoms and tell them what I think's going on and then come up with testing. They know what they're afraid of or what their friend told them, what they read on the internet, and they show up wanting a test or demanding some sort of imaging study, whether it's important or not, or whether it would be useful or not, or even if there's any actual thought that they could have the thing that they think they have. Specifically blood clots. There's a little bruise here. Oh, I think I have a blood clot. No, you don't. You have a hematoma. But you don't get the ultrasound, they file a complaint. So I think it'll be interesting that maybe someday we'll just have a self-service window. You just walk up, say, I want this, and they say, okay, that'll be X dollars, get it done, here's your result. But then like, well, what do I do with this? Exactly. You wanted it, you demanded it, you got it, now go do it. But again, that's AI. It has to be controlled by somebody. It has to be looked over. And we need some sort of human doing some thought pattern in the background. So what about for art? So I'm a creator, I guess, in this space. And they say I'm not supposed to use AI. I'd be shamed by the community and cast aside as a heretic if I start using AI to write books, for example. But again, this is going to ruffle some feathers, but why? Can you use AI in any regard for, plot ideas? What if I say, what are 5 ways somebody can die alone in a room? And it spits out all of those, and I take one, then I write a whole scene about it. Like, is that fair? Or is it only okay if I talk to a buddy and then we're limited to what both of us can come up with? I mean, character traits, twists. If I say, what is a character trait that would make them despised by readers in 5 seconds? I mean, you can think of some, you can think of things that you hate in your life, but maybe the AI tool is going to give you some things you hadn't thought of. I think that's totally fine. It's brainstorming. So that's for writing, but what about actual like graphics artists and design? So I'm going to show you a little video here. I went on Google Gemini. I have a paid version of Google Workspace, sort of they call it, for my Brian at brianhartman.me account. And let's look at what I did. So I said, I want a book cover in the Salvador Dali style of a man with no bones about to jump over the Corinth Canal. Now, if I went to a graphics artist and said, draw me that, I mean, I don't know how long it would take, but it would take quite a while and probably cost a lot of money. I mean, dollar per hour, what's a graphics artist worth? $100, $200 an hour, if they're good? And is it truly designing something from scratch, or is it photo manipulation of existing photos? So anyway, something like that would have to be custom drawn, and that would take a lot of time. So with Gemini, it cost me about 15 seconds to wait and have it spit out a book cover. Now, here's the result. So when I create a cover, it costs me about $300, $350 for each book cover. And again, these are taking existing stock photos and manipulating and adding text. It's not custom hand-drawn stuff. So for an audiobook narration for Sacrificial Touch, it cost me $3,150. So it's cost prohibitive to make audiobooks with human narration for everything. So either the vast majority of books are never going to have audiobooks, which you could argue isn't fair to people that are blind or have visually impaired issues, or they drive all the time. I mean, maybe some people want that. But if I create an AI narrated audiobook, again, shame, public scorn, because it's not humans and it's getting them out of the picture. But again, back to Steam Shovel, whose job, like at what point does somebody become irreplaceable? And if you try to replace them with AI, all of a sudden you're the worst person on earth. The honest reality is AI narrators are going to get as good as humans, and it's just going to be there soon. So where's the cost justification? Should we limit productivity in order to keep some people employed? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but these are questions we're going to have to figure out. And to sum it up, who should be required to endure increased cost and decreased productivity for the common good? Who? Me? You? The consumer? The producer? Is there any difference? Now, I eagerly wait all the comments of people say, well, I won't buy your books. I'll just go read an AI written one. Fine, go ahead. Enjoy them. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I don't write books to support myself. I do it because I enjoy it and I want to share a story with you. If you like the story an AI bot gave you, perfect. There you go. But honestly, I already got an AI written book. My son got this for me for Christmas. I hate to say it, I haven't read it yet, but it was fascinating, and it spit it out, bound it, sent it to me. So I'm curious to see how it did actually. So moving on, now we're going to talk about Tylenol and autism. So of course, big news about Tylenol and being linked with autism, right? The official report does not say it causes autism, but there's an association between Tylenol consumption and increased rates of autism in children. So this has gone back over 10 years. Like, this isn't brand new. This isn't something Trump just spit out, right? This isn't drinking bleach and all the other reports that we had. There's actually science behind this. There's a whole bunch of, the most recent one was actually a meta-analysis. It wasn't a new study per se with new patients. It was a review of dozens of studies that were out there looking at this. And there was a whole bunch of studies that did show some association with increased risk, and there's others that said there weren't. It looked like there were more that were suggestive, and they kind of looked at, well, is this a good study or not? How biased is it? Did they do anything wrong in the creation of these studies? Because not everything's perfect. And the ultimate result is, yeah, it looks like women who take Tylenol during pregnancy do have increased rates of autism. But then it comes down to why. And that meta-analysis cannot say why. Now, if you're looking for a true why and a cause, it's very difficult to prove. Like, we all know that if you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, you're going to die. But there's no study that proves that. Like, you can do an association that, well, hey, everybody who's jumped out of an airplane without a parachute or a wingsuit, whatever you want to do, is going to die. Like, but intellectually, we know that. But how would you do a randomized controlled trial looking forward to prove it? because that's the best way to prove causality, right? So grab 100 people, say we're going to go up in a plane. 50 of you, we're going to get parachutes and you jump out. The other 50, you don't get parachutes, and we'll just see what happens. Now, so that would obviously be a little involved, right? So who's going to be the 50 that don't get parachutes, but you have to jump out of the plane? You can never recruit for that. So the way studies work is if you want to assess whether or not Tylenol causes autism, you have to make an argument that Tylenol does not cause autism. Then you go back and do a study. It's called the null hypothesis, meaning that what you're looking for doesn't actually exist. But then the study has to reject the null hypothesis, meaning it actually shows that there is a difference. And that's how you do these studies. So if your supposition is, hey, Tylenol causes cancer, now we want 1,000 women to take a whole bunch of Tylenol so we can see all the cancer that we cause in your children. How do you recruit that study? Like, you can't do it ethically. These neurodevelopmental disorders are extremely complex, right? We know there's genetics, there's environmental factors, chemical exposures, all kinds of things. So what if it's not Tylenol, but what if Tylenol is a marker for something else? Like, sure, it happens in these women who take more Tylenol than don't, but it has nothing to do with the Tylenol. It's because they had higher fevers. They had more fevers. They had chronic inflammation. They had autoimmune problems that ended up changing the developing baby. Again, not from the Tylenol, but because of the thing the Tylenol was taken for. Now, these associations and things like that, again, don't prove causality, but it does give you somewhere to start looking. Like, okay, well, there's a difference here. What explains the difference? Clearly something's going on, because it's not just genetics and it's not just change, diagnostic criteria. We're seeing so many more of these kids in the ER. But then as a side note, like, if you're making a TikTok video, taking meds just to spite a president and make political points, why would you do that? Like, it's absurd. Like, don't put something in your body purely from a political standpoint, especially when you're pregnant. Now, I did it the other day with a numbing drop in my eye because a girl was terrified of getting a numbing drop in her eye. I said, look, it's fine. Put one in my own. That's a little bit different, right? But don't be making TikTok videos where you potentially put your child at risk simply for clicks and likes and to make a political point. Okay, moving on to landscaping and house chores. I know you're not real interested in this kind of stuff, but I am, and this is my podcast, so here we go. After, again, the Charlie Kirk incident, I'm like, we need a flagpole. Got a house, I need a flagpole. I already have Govia lights, so I can kind of string them up all around. I'll show you a picture of that finished product here now. So I got HOA approval, got the people to come out, put a flagpole up in a couple of days, but it's like, okay, now we need a light. But I got a pole light out in front and figure, hey, I'll just tap into that. But the pole light was starting to decay. I hadn't even noticed the holes in the side metal on the pole. I'm like, all right, I'll just replace that. Well, no, it's bolted into a concrete pillar. I'm like, okay. Those bolts were all fused, couldn't get them off, so I ended up snapping the bolts. Okay, well, I'll just go get a new pole, put some new tap cons in, and clamp it down. Nope, the new pole needs a new concrete pillar. Okay, we'll just dig the old one out, put a new one in. But I'm like, well, I got to move the hole because I need the concrete tight, right? Well, we've had a lot of problems with this house, and the best thing that I've found built was actually the freaking concrete pillar for a little 5-foot light pole. Took me hours and hours and hours to get this freaking thing out. It was a couple £100, disaster, but my son helped me, finally got it out, got the new one in, ran the wiring, everything's good. But I am still hurting. I was bleeding everywhere. You might notice that I'm an ER doctor, kind of a white collar job, don't really have the calluses. It was a problem, but we got it done. Okay, now let's go through a list of all of my books. We're going to start back at the beginning, and we're going to run right through everything. So the first book, this is book 1 in a Bryce Chapman series. This is called Redemption. And first I published it with a hybrid publisher and then went back and self-published it. But Redemption, it's about an ER doc, Bryce Chapman, nothing to do with Brian Hartman, right? Completely coincidental that they sound the same. But he sees a patient, kind of blows him off right before his vacation because the guy was sick for like an hour. And the guy ends up coming back in really sick 2 days later and dies. But Bryce was on vacation trying to patch things up with his wife. They were down in Exumas in the Bahamas. And while down there, he actually saved the life of a guy that ended up coming back later in the plot. But when he comes home, they found out this guy died, and they're accusing him of malpractice because he missed something and the dude died. He's like, no, that's not possible. He thinks it was murder. But in order to get his reputation back, save the strife that's going on in his family, he needs to figure out who murdered him, how they did it, in order to gain redemption. Okay, book 2. This is same series, Dr. Bryce Chapman. This is called Deception. And this starts out with a distracted driver who hits a police officer and injures him severely, ends up coming to the hospital. He succumbs to his injuries. Now, it turns out the driver was the daughter of a very wealthy businessman locally. And that guy comes in and will do absolutely everything to protect his daughter and make sure she doesn't suffer consequences for what she did. And Bryce gets wrapped up in the middle of all that, gets personally threatened, and their ER is also at risk for being closed down from administrative oversight because there's a saboteur loose. That's kind of a bit of a backstory. And then also, the guy they saved down in Exuma, his father ends up being the owner of the hospital system. And so that was actually kind of an uplifting thing initially, but it's going to come back to bite him. Vengeance is the third book in the Bryce Chapman series, and this one was fun to write. Like, I love the tropics, you know that about me, love sailing, being in the Caribbean. And about half this book is on a Bahamian island at a very fancy resort that Bryce earned by saving the son of the CEO of the hospital system. But the saboteur from book 2 ends up teaming up with him, and they have a lot of issues on this trip, and they have to actually save themselves from kidnapping. Got firearms involved. We got surgeries in the middle of a hurricane, and actually some hidden treasure that is found down in the Bahamas that leads to significant issues moving forward in Bryce's life. Book 4, Hanging by a String. I tried to change the titles a little bit because I couldn't go with one-word titles all along, I didn't think. So in this one, all the money that Bryce got ends up coming back to cause some issues, and again, I don't want to ruin it all, but back to book 2, the father of the lady who was in the car accident, he runs into some issues and ends up having some really significant consequences to him that leads to a very exciting climax of this book and sets up for book 5, which is kind of planned out but not written. It hopefully will come out in 2026. It Happened in the Loft. This was actually going to be my first attempt at a psych thriller, but I ended up making more of a psychological romance drama because the romance just kind of naturally built. It's about an ER doctor who had something bad happen when he was young. Growing up on a farm, his brother died in the loft, and he had a lot of PTSD from that, which makes it difficult to have romantic relationships, to be successful in his career. But when he meets a nurse, all of a sudden he's like, I got to get past this because I want to be with this lady. Now they both have their own issues. They kind of work with each other. He uses EMDR in order to kind of reprogram his mind to get past PTSD. So if you're into therapy and counseling or EMDR, this would be very exciting for you. And it was actually my favorite story for a while, I think, from the romance side of things. It's a nice story. You'll cry, especially at the end. Lake Sinclair, this is a true psychological thriller, and again, it's kind of medical. So this lady is found unresponsive in a car, and they bring her into the ER. When they run her information, her name and everything, they find out that she was actually reported missing and presumed dead decades ago. And they have contact information of the family, and they call them, and the family's shocked because they're the ones that killed her. So they're freaking out because now she's alive. They come show up and find out, hey, that's not her. And now they're kind of wondering what's going on. Somebody brought up this old thing in the past, and they got to sort out what happened. His family's very wealthy. They're worried that their money's going to get taken away if their secrets are exposed, and they will stop at nothing to keep it private. Murder Burger. This is probably one of my favorite books, title-wise at least. I love it. So this is a eco-terror book that's part of the Perseus Eco-Terror Thriller series. This is the first book, and it follows a genetics researcher down at a local college here in Indiana, completely fictional, of course. But she ends up working in a lab that's doing genetic research on mosquitoes to change their saliva so they can't carry Zika, dengue, malaria, like all these mosquito-borne illnesses, trying to change the saliva to save millions of people worldwide. But she goes, oh, well, what if I insert this protein in there instead, or along with it? And not only does it change it and not let the mosquitoes carry all these parasites, but it has the alpha-gal protein, and if you get bit by these mosquitoes, now all of a sudden you're allergic to beef. So she's a big militant vegan, and that is her plan and her desires. Teams up with an artificial meat company, again, totally fictional. But their goal is to release all these mosquitoes and try to convince the world that they need to eat artificial meat. Gets her goal of eco-terrorism and getting rid of the whole cattle industry and everything that comes with that. His goal is to sell more food and get the girl. But somebody's killed, and his family's trying to figure it out. Of course, he's a police officer. So they come after her, and it's a very exciting chase scene that leads to book 2. Now, book 2, I actually found out I don't have a copy of, but it's called Seeds of Change. And it's kind of 1 and 2 kind of run parallel, and then they come together in book 3. But this follows a local Indiana boy who, growing up on a farm, he watches both parents die in a farming accident. Now, he thought he had life insurance set up that would pay the inheritance taxes so he could keep the farm. But there was an issue with the policy. He didn't get the payment. He has to sell the farm in order to pay the taxes, and now he has nowhere to live, doesn't have any parents. He goes to Chicago to live with his uncle, who's a commodities trader and is making a killing trading the product that his parents died creating. So he sees the frustration of how the whole system is set up, and he wants to level the playing field, make it so the farmers are the ones that get their money. And to do that, he needs to convince them to stay out of their fields, but he does it in a terroristic sort of way. And he gets the attention of the same network that the murder burger people were in, and they want to get him on their side because of what he's able to do with the world. And the FBI is coming after him as well. So the question is, who's going to catch him first? But book 3 will be the resolution where this all comes together, and with any luck, a very exciting ending where the good guys win. And finally, Sacrificial Touch. This is by far my favorite book I've written. This is a Christian fiction medical thriller, and it explores what happens when an ER doctor who is already frustrated with the system and how all the hurdles that get in between him and patient care. He is attacked and essentially killed by a patient, goes up to heaven, has a near-death experience with God where he's offered the ability to come back to earth and heal anyone of anything. Now, who wouldn't want that, right, as a physician? So of course he says yes, and God's like, well, before you answer, it comes with a catch. Every time you use it, you lose a month of your life expectancy. So it's not unlimited. There's people he's going to see that he chooses not to heal, and that causes problems. Then there's also issues for people that he does heal. And ultimately, the world's not ready for a miracle worker in their midst, and he needs to make a decision about how to end things. And you will cry multiple times. Hopefully, you will think about why you're on this earth and how we can make the biggest impact while we're here. There is a sequel coming. I haven't planned it out yet, but it will be Cameron Turner's son, Aaron, who is a big part of that. And hopefully, again, trying to get that out in 2026. And now the last book, I don't have a copy of either because it's yet to be published, but it's coming out this week. And you can get a free copy if you go on BookFunnel. I'll put a link down in the description. But it's called The Streamer, and it's about a YouTube content creator and his girlfriend who run a sailing channel. And they go all over the world filming content. But they're going towards this Blue Hole Atoll, which is a made-up place, but a beautiful tropical area. And another guy's coming, and he is infatuated with the girl on their boat, Katarina. And he wants her on his boat. He's going to try to kidnap her. Brody, my main character, is going to try to stop him and get everything situated at the end. There's some other people that come in with different thoughts of what needs to happen, and it's really exciting ending. There's a lot of good twists in it. I think you're going to like it. But again, get a free copy and check it out today. All right, that finishes episode 11 of the Author Podcast. Hopefully going to get this out this week. Hopefully one more episode, then we're going on vacation for fall break. Can't wait. Hope you have a good week. Now go out and enjoy this beautiful gift of life.